there's three beliefs that all human beings tend to form from a very young age that holds us back in every area of our life, and it shows up hugely in relationships.
Sometimes you might just have one of these. Sometimes you might have all three. You might have a combination of all three of them, and they usually are established before the age of 7.
Yeah. So the first one is I'm not enough. Like, so many people believe this, especially in the world we live today. It just feeds off that. So I'm not enough. The second one is I'm not lovable. I'm just not lovable. That's a belief that they have. I'm not lovable. The third one is I'm broken. So that comes from a place of like, something happened to me, a trauma, an event, and I'm now not lovable. You know, I'm broken. I'm too different. I can't receive love now because I'm broken. So which one of those or combination of those are you? Is it 1, I'm not enough, 2, I'm not lovable, or 3, I'm broken? None of them are true, but you do need to know which one you're telling yourself at the moment, because you literally become whatever you believe about yourself. Your beliefs build you. So you need to bring awareness to what you believe about yourself. They're not facts. You get to change them, but you need to, the first step is getting clear about, what do I actually believe about myself? That's really where you need to start. And you might actually find that you find this belief in what your parents or caregivers used to speak over you as a child. I used to get a lot of, I'm too much. You talk too much. You're too sensitive. You're too this, you're too that. So I really kind of did believe that I was broken, that I couldn't have love because I was all those things. So I had to repair that in myself and really reparent it and look at it from a different perspective, which we'll share how to do that.
And another question, another way to reframe it is, who did you have to be in order to receive your parents' love? So did you have to be the good boy or the good girl who was, you know, listened really well, who followed all the instructions and just did as they said? You weren't an independent thinker. You basically just followed the rules all the time. What's another example there?
Did you have to be the carer? That was one of mine. I needed to care and look after everybody but myself. So that's how I learned not to practice self-love. Because when I remember being told I was selfish when I did actually put myself first, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be a selfish person. Like, that's like the worst thing in the world. So then I was like, I'm just going to give and care about everybody else. And then I ended up feeling really, really resentful, really angry at everybody, because I felt like nobody was looking after me, but that was my job. So you might have been told that you needed, like, you might have been given love or praise when you cared for everybody else and not yourself. Maybe you were only given love when you were like sick or when you were naughty, you know, so then you were like, oh, okay, well, I have to be different to other people in order to get love, you know? So it'll be showing up in subtle ways, but you can start with, what did I need to be to get love? Some of you needed to be perfect. I know I had a bit of that as well, or to people please.
And for the men, it might have been succeeding or achieving something as a boy,
like an overachiever,
overachiever, and being praised only when you achieved, and when you didn't, love was taken away. And then you end up repeating that pattern throughout your life, you know, constantly seeking achievement, success, money, whatever it is, in order to supposedly receive love, but it doesn't work. We've got to shine a light on those patterns which aren't serving us anymore.
And you did all of that because there was one parent's love that you craved, that you felt like you never had. Obviously, when as adults, our parents say, oh, of course I loved you. You know, I love you. You know, I'm proud of you. Well, no. Unless you actually take the time, and that's why with our kids, we say, I love you, I am proud of you all of the time. Like, because we didn't hear those words a lot of the time. A lot of people don't hear those words a lot of time. For some weird reason, there's like this kind of shame around it, or like discomfort around like acknowledging the people you love.
That comes from self-love.
From a lack of self-love.
If you don't fully love yourself, it's actually very hard to tell someone else I love you. So you've really got to, this is what this whole workshop's about. It's about cultivating that sense of self-love in yourself first, so that you can then give it.
But there'll be one parent that you felt like you couldn't get their love, or you had to be that X, Y, and Z to get their love. And then you became whoever you thought you needed to be in order to get that love, and you stopped being who you were. And this is where that disconnection from ourselves starts, and where really all the problem starts in our lives. You know, if you have young children, like, yes, we need to keep them safe, but the second thing we really need to do is keep them connected to their authentic self.
Yeah.
Because they need to love themselves. They need to love who they are. That will naturally build confidence, self-esteem, resilience, everything that they need to actually get through life. So this is a really big one. That's so take some time, even if you have to pause this and write it down, because that's really big and really important. Now, there might have been some events that happened that made you think you were not lovable in your life. Like, just want to mention this because that can happen. Like, pretty much it's very common. I haven't met one adult human being who has not experienced some form of trauma. So trauma doesn't just mean you were in a really like outrageous traumatic experience, like, like a caregiver took their life, or you're in a car accident, or you were abused. Like, it doesn't just mean those extreme events. Trauma is literally neglecting your needs.
Yeah.
So a lot of children had their needs neglected. A lot of adults were children once who had their needs neglected. And it might have not been from an intentional place, but that doesn't really matter. You need to separate the trauma from the person.
Yeah.
I had needs neglected as a child, and I love my family. I have a great relationship with my parents. I don't hold any anger or anything towards them, but I had to separate them from the experience and realize, well, yeah, there were times where my needs were neglected. And I can logically understand why. Like, I'm from a family of 5. Me and my sister are really close in age. There's only 10 and a half months between us, literally. So I became a toddler at 10 and a half months old. And I wasn't ready. I was a baby.
Yeah.
So, that was in my nervous system from a baby, to step up, to grow up fast, to be whatever I need to be strong, to not get upset, to put my needs second because there's another baby now. But I needed to feel all of that. I can logically understand it, but I needed to feel all of that. And this is the second part. You have to be able to feel whatever happened to you. The only way to heal it is to feel it. And there's lots of ways you can do that. Just letting the feeling through you is a great place to start. But most people interrupt that feeling because they don't feel comfortable to feel it. So, work through it with a coach, or like I do healing sessions with women to help them feel safe to move the emotion through them, out of love's breath work.
Yeah.
To move it.
A lot of the time before the age of 7 with these traumatic events, we can't process it ourselves. Yeah. And it gets stored in the body energetically. And that's why we get all these things pop up in the body physically, like you might, cancer or any number of diseases. And a lot of them are energetic diseases that are actually first created before the age of 7 from a trauma that we were unable to process energetically at that time. So we need to, like Aston said, you've got to logically be able to understand it. But then the most important part is emotionally feel it and process as an adult and process it and release it from the body.
And really acknowledge it. And that's how, like, once I did that, I was able to go, okay, well, that was the meaning I created as a child. But now that I'm an adult, I can create a new meaning that's more empowering, so that I no longer feel like I have to be X, Y, Z in order to be loved. Or I no longer have to feel like I'm broken and I can't have love. And like it's going to be taken away from me. So that's why this is so important. Like you can be your own hero. You can be your own healer. And you can break generational patterns. You can like heal this for yourself and your family. You don't have to pass it on to your children. And that's the thing. If you don't like learn to love yourself, you will pass on a lack of self-love to your children, because your children learn to look after themselves, not by what you tell them, by what they see you do.